This is Startup Grind Barcelona. How many people here, I think probably Carlos has already asked this, I missed the first part of the event. How many people is his or her first event? Where the fuck were you? Good, we see we will convert some of these people into regulars. Thank you for coming. If you don't know us, this is our hashtag. This is our Twitter handle. We monitor this personally, whatever we can do for you, and you're already using it. After 3 years, it has already settled. You have already learned how to use it. You're asking for jobs. You're asking for retweets. You're asking for connections, favors, introductions, whatever. Just ask us. Ask me, even directly, right? So you can tweet. Please use the hashtag of the event, tweet, live photos, whatever. We have been trending topic in the last anniversary with Iñaki Zenarro. We want to do it again. You can tweet with this, but you can also tweet with hashtag StartupGrind, which is our hashtag. You can also tweet with happy birthday, Startup Grind Barcelona, or Startup Grind Barcelona 3 years, or startups, or I'm going Instagram now, entrepreneurship, or oh my fucking God, what the, or follow back. This is Instagram, right? There will be people just selling you followers. No, just kidding. This is us, okay? It's a really big family. We're all around the world. This is us, but these are the chapter directors for like Argentina, like Sonoma, there's Malaysia, there's Brazil, everybody in their own cities. There's the people from Madrid, where they're like great people. They are from Madrid, but we love them. Actually, I just deleted, I had a slide with the Barca team, but probably it's not the best day tonight. But it's also somebody else is our family, like Carlos, Mark, Emilio, Paul, and all the volunteers that are helping tonight. So thank you very much, guys. You're our family, and without them, this wouldn't be possible. Give a big applause for them. So long story short, we are in 234 cities in 94 different countries. So if you're ever traveling, check whether there's a Startup Grind chapter over there, because they will help you. Reach out, say hi. If you are in Moldova, top 15 least visited countries in the world, but it's a great country. I'm going there this summer. It's going to be amazing. So they will help you. If you're in Athens, Dimitris, the guy over there, he will help you. If you're in Stockholm, if you're in Singapore, whatever, reach out. At the very least, they will introduce you. They will show you around. Maybe they will make some powerful connections. We don't know, right? But we'll try to help you. But then again, since we are talking about hashtags, let's go a little bit back in time, okay? This is Thursday. You know that Thursday stands for Throwback Thursday on Instagram, whatever. This is a picture of the first event ever of Startup Grind. Looks amazing, right? Like your startup the first day. It's exactly the same. Everybody's company started like this. Some guys being barefoot in the office, chilling, beers around, probably a dog walking around, something like this. But now we do events like this. We do the conference in London for 3,000 people. We do the conference in Silicon Valley once a year, 5,000, 7,000 people. We've hosted people like the co-founders of Facebook, the president of Google, Eric Schmidt. We're doing great, yes, after 7 years, after the long J curve, right? So if we had quit after this event because it was probably crap, sorry, we're not connecting with Derek, our CEO, tonight. Some logistical problems, so he's not able to ascertain this. But people continued coming, and they kept trying harder. They told me like 2 or 3 events, there was nobody. Nobody showed up. But we did the event with them, or probably 2 or 3 people in the room, whatever. I'm very grateful to say that here in Barcelona, although, you know, we started like this, which is also not very good. It's not as bad as Silicon Valley, to be honest. But like, look at this. Like, what the hell? What sort of stage is that? Our co-director, Alex, he was working there. He was probably playing Candy Crush. Sorry, you're not here, Alex. You should have come. But, you know, it was great. It was an MVP. We started like a startup, right? We started an ITNIC, which is an accelerator or an incubator for projects. And it was great. We did an event like within 24 hours, no promotion, no nothing. 80 people showed up. And ever since our first event, we had at least 80 people. So I'm really thankful for all the effort we have put together and for you guys showing up, right? And now, you know, look at this. We've had so many people here. Last 6 events or so, we have sold out. We've got people from Airbnb, people from Zynga, people from Stripe, people from BlaBlaCar. We've got some VIPs here tonight. Raise your hand if you're Mara Alarcón Social Car. It's over here. She's over there. There's a bunch of other previous speakers, like Jordi Miró, ex-CTO of Wacky, sitting in the back like a good CTO, hiding from the rest of the people. I've seen also Ventura Barba, director of Sonar, around. Raise your hand if you're still here. And, you know, a bunch of really interesting people. Thank you for coming, right? So after 40 events, we are here, right? We're super thankful, and we look forward to our 4th anniversary event. Let me tell you a small story, because, you know, you want to hear that guy over there, Scott, and he wants to talk, and we're getting thirsty. Let's get into it, right? We're bringing Silicon Valley to Barcelona. Why? Because some people just can't afford it. Some people just don't have the guts to quit their job and just go there. Some people are afraid. Some people won't do it alone. Some people don't speak English. They can't go. Let us help you. So tonight, like Carlos said, we are bringing a little bit of Silicon Valley, right? We're bringing Scott, who worked for a bunch of years in Silicon Valley, and when he was in Download, and also then, you know, working for Disney and other companies. We brought Howard, who is actually raised there and, you know, established there, wants to bring also some investment. Please bring money. And then something else, we'll be presenting a little bit. Let me tell you a story. 3 years ago, let's fast forward to 2015, late 2013. Quit my job, went to San Francisco for burning all my money. Like 3 months. It was really, really hard. That's my co-founder over there, Xavi, raise your hand. Yeah, it was hard when I had to ask for money, right? Yeah, that actually happened. So I quit my job, I went to San Francisco. This is me at Google. My dream was never to be an entrepreneur. I wanted to work at Google, and here I am an entrepreneur. I don't work at Google, but whatever. No hard feelings, right? 2014, when I was there, so I created my company, MarSpace. I got Startup Grind. And I saw this as an opportunity of, hey, what we're trying to do is trying to decouple Silicon Valley from Silicon Valley itself and bringing it a little bit like inspiring educational pieces to every city in the world. Our vision at Startup Grind is to educate every entrepreneur in the world. Think of TED for startups, a little bit less cheesy maybe. Probably the stage is not as cool, but anyways, this is us. And we're now in 2017. It's like, holy crap, like this goes so fast. And we're still here, we're not dying. Howard, I wanted to ask you, have we passed the J-curve, the long, cold winter?
Looking good.
Looking good, thank you. Great. So I went to Silicon Valley looking for inspiration, business, and Mexican food, right? And it was a life-changing event. I want to encourage everyone to go there, see it, learn from it. Like, go spend a couple weeks. Don't go 3 months. It's like fucking expensive, okay? I'm gonna show 5 quick lessons I learned there before we go into Scott's fireside chat, right? First of all, Mexican food's great. No, just kidding. It's good. You might not like it. It might not be for you. I didn't quite like it. I go there every year, but I wouldn't live there, right? There are some good things, there are some bad things. What we're doing at Startup Grind, we're giving you the full picture. We're showing the good things, the bad things. Entrepreneurship is not for everyone. Not everyone can endure it. And you will suffer. You will lose your hair. You will lose your money. You will lose your couple. We've been through that. And so there are certain things that are good as well. And we also want to show you that. Let's get into it. If we can click. And yes, lesson number 1. 5 things really quick that changed my conception of how business works. Really. Everyone helps in Silicon Valley. You're going to shoot an email to the VP of Engineering of Twitter, and he will answer. He will invite you over for coffee. He will invite you over for lunch. He'll give you, well, maybe, if you're lucky, you're going to get like 19 minutes, okay? That this actually happens in Silicon Valley. The meeting is like, hey, you got 19 minutes with me. It's better than nothing, right? It's probably the most expensive 19 minutes you're going to get. But this happens. I've had this a bunch of times. But really, really high-profile people. Like, there's this one guy I wanted to extend my thanks tonight, and he's here in the audience. He doesn't know this, but it's Miguel Valls. Raise your hand. First person I ever met in San Francisco, the guy who orchestrated the Barcelona-San Francisco Sister Cities program. And the big changing force that actually landed the direct flight between Barcelona and San Francisco. I want to give you a big applause, right? He's been working his ass off. Actually, he should be on stage, right? He was living in Silicon Valley, but now he moved back to Barcelona, so we will have him on stage. I lied to him, like, hey, I'm going to give you free beers tonight if you come and whatever. Yeah, I'm inviting you to be one of our next speakers. Great. So as I say, like, this is crazy. Everybody will help you, right? But they are super consistent. They're super, super fast about it. You gotta make the most out of it. You got 19 minutes to create an impression. That's why the Americans invented the elevator pitch, because, you know, it's not like we're going to be like here, we do the sobremesa, right? We meet for lunch, we stay for 2-3 hours if things are going well, right? I think that's why Howard loves it here, because it's like, we can have some wine and stuff. Great. The other one is it's fucking expensive, right? It's fucking expensive. Forget estimates. This is kind of like software estimates. They don't work in San Francisco. This is a bill for a breakfast. It's $25 breakfast. Not bad, is it? I mean, I don't know about you, but I'm not exactly rich. It was like the most expensive burrito I've ever had for breakfast, but easily it's twice as much as you plan, because public transportation is not exactly super good. You will be taking cabs everywhere, Uber, eating out all the time. Even the supermarkets are super expensive, so you're not going to be on low budget, right? Some of these things, Scott, I want you to comment on this afterwards to see if I'm just saying BS or not. Great. The other thing is, like, no one cares about Europe. Like, no one, sorry, some of them know where Europe is, right? Everyone loves Barcelona. Barcelona's everyone's favorite city in the world, isn't it? But when I go there, it's like, yeah, everyone, like, my cousin studied in Barcelona. Everyone relates to Barcelona. My son plays soccer. Like, I've been there on holidays. I got wasted so many times in Barcelona, this and that. I spent 1 month abroad. But, like, business-wise, we're completely not relevant, right? So we are perceived as low cost. If you want to do business in the US, or especially in Silicon Valley, you got to be there. You got to be there. So if you have, like, I do have a software development company, hire somebody, like a salesman, a project manager there. Otherwise, it's very, very difficult that you will get hired, because you will be perceived as, you know, not low cost, offshore, which is kind of like a euphemism for, like, yeah, cheap work, right? Why doing business there? America's so big. America's so great now, right? And also, very important, it's like, they don't perceive that threats, business, will come from Europe and they will crush it. It's like, every big company is from the US, right? It's Google, it's Facebook, it's this and that. It's like, now it's Tesla and Instagram and Twitter and Dropbox and boom, I could go forever, right? How many big companies from Europe have taken a dent, actually, in the US market? Not so many, so they are not used to that. No threats come from Europe. I mean, about that, right? Not yet, we're not yet in the blacklist, but this guy might have something to say. Lesson number 4, be very quick, because I want to introduce you to something really very special. It's like, use the momentum. I said, you got 19 minutes to meet the guy from Twitter, right? Follow up immediately after, when you're in the lift or in the cab or in public transportation, because otherwise you've got like 24 hours, 48 hours time span that you will have to use this momentum. Otherwise, it's gone. It's gone. Because they will read your email when they're in the cab or in their car, whatever, and hopefully now while driving. And now with Tesla, everybody's got a Tesla there. I mean, Howard's got a fantastic Tesla. But they will just take action. They want you to be very blunt. They want to be very direct. That's why I wanted to say is the next one, I think, is, yeah, don't beat around the bush. Like, be upfront about what you want to get out of the meeting. It's like, hey, I'm coming here to raise funds. Or I want you to introduce me to somebody. Or I'm here to pitch you about my company. I would like you to be my mentor. And then start smoothly, right? But be upfront. Say the objective of the meeting. Say the goal. Because otherwise, most people will reject, or they can reject it's like, what is the meeting for? You say it. Just say it. I mean, it's going to work. Be upfront. If you're perceived as somebody very slow, you don't have the hassle, right? You don't have the hassle. You probably will not add value. Try to also help them, right? Say, I can bring you something. Great, and this is what we're bringing you tonight. I want to hear some cheering and like big applauses and stuff. We're actually bringing Silicon Valley in a conference in October to Barcelona. Cheers, right? Oh my God. Yes. Long story short, yeah, I had to cut down a couple of slides because they had too much blasphemy. But basically, if you guys are not going to Silicon Valley, will bring Silicon Valley to you, right? The main theme of the conference is we will bridge Barcelona, San Francisco. They are already bridged. They're sister cities. They have a direct flight. No, not now, the music. Thank you. It was actually quite good. I felt like a rock star. And so we will bring some of the best speakers, some of the best investors, VCs, and founders to Barcelona for a couple of days. And we want you to be part of that, right? We do once a year a big conference in San Francisco. We do one in London, which is going to be the second edition in June. We're going to do one in Japan, one in Australia. We've done one in LA, regional conferences. Now we're bringing one to Barcelona. I tell you what, it's a small secret. In London, the conference, the regional conference, is called Startup Grind Europe. I mean, they're not going to be in Europe for much that longer, right? We do this one, and the second one, 2018, it's going to be Startup Grind Europe in Barcelona, because you want that. What we're doing here is, maybe not for too long, maybe, but we'll try, right? We're entrepreneurs, we live in uncertainty. What we're trying to do is 800, so we want you to be 800 founders in the audience. We'll bring entrepreneurs and VCs from Silicon Valley. So if you're looking for money, it's a great time to show around, right? That day, you call in sick to work and say like, yeah, I cannot come, got something to do, I gotta take care of my hamster, whatever. We'll talk about the connection Barcelona, San Francisco, on entrepreneurship and tech, right? Save the date. It's going to be, well, October 10th, 11th. 2 days conference with 2 tracks. You know how Startup Grind works. You're going to see a little bit later. But we can say, what can you expect? Some of the people we're talking to, some of the people are already confirmed. I'm going to go into that a little bit. Next slide, probably. We've got people from Zynga. We've got people from BlaBlaCar and whatever. We want you to give us also ideas. Who would you like to learn from? Literally. For Startup Grind, we've got a network that's so vast, it's so big, we can literally target anybody and say, hey, can you come to Barcelona? We'll fucking bring him or her. We want a lot of female speakers because we don't have so many in Barcelona, and we need to also bridge the gap, right? So we're talking to guys from Lego, BlaBlaCar, 500 Startups, YC, Pinterest, Kissmetrics, Angelis, Eventbrite, Basecamp, whatever. Take moonshots. I'm up for the challenge. Some of them are already confirmed. Like, we got Lee Jacobs, partner at Angelis. We got Michael Eckhart, the co-author of the famous book, Crossing the Chasm. If you haven't read it, after you read Howard's J-Curve, you read this one. Actually, Scott has also written a book, if I remember correctly. The HTML3 book that was like awarded. Yeah, I need to save that for afterwards, sorry. CEO of Typeform, David. He doesn't really talk in a lot of events. Founder of Couchsurfing. We've had also Derek Anderson. This guy likes a lot to tell jokes about bald people. I just don't get it, but I think eventually we'll get there, right? So these are some of them. These are the ones we can confirm so far. I don't want to be pretentious, but we're going to have like a bigger spectrum of speakers. We will have also a startup program whereby you can pitch in front of the audience. You can get real exposure to our speakers and VCs. You can have office hours with them. By the way, as Francesc Bach is over here. Can you raise your hand? Hola, Francesc. Yeah. So basically, this guy is bringing startups from Barcelona to San Francisco. So, you know, he can tell you a thing or two about Silicon Valley. There's another. I was trying to point out some of the people that can help with Silicon Valley connection to Barcelona. We're going to be selecting 10 startups from all around Europe. Right? So there will be not many chances. So keep your pitch sharp. And if you want to apply, obviously, you can do it. And that's pretty much about it. Well, we got some sponsors and partners. I'd like to thank them, and we will do so in the conference. But just to show that, you know, this is live, this is going, this is happening. And, you know, if you want to sponsor this, it's not precisely cheap, but you can do it. You need to... Who's got here like some millions, some spare millions that, you know, raise the fund? But the funniest thing and the most interesting thing for you is we're opening a batch, first batch of tickets, only for you tonight. Only 30 of them. Super discounted price, 30 euro. Prices are going to go way higher, okay? We can confirm how much. I just forgot. No, just kidding. Just keep this code. We will email you, but you need to write down this code because we will not be emailing the code. Take a picture or something. We will not be emailing the code. I was there 3. Well, if you know, yeah, you see, there's some pictures from the back. create a massive WhatsApp group and share it with everyone. Marina, thank you. Great. And that's the conference. Back to tonight's event. I'd like to thank our sponsors, because obviously without sponsors, there's no food. This event is not cheap. We have been doing it for 3 years because we've had really great sponsors. And we've had 3 new sponsors tonight. We're changing sponsors tonight. First one is Across Legal, and I'm really happy to be working with them, because actually, how many companies have pitched you or contacted you like saying, hey, I don't know what you're preparing in Barcelona. I tweeted about the conference, right? And they were like, we want to be there. We want to help you. What can we do for you? I said, like, this is kind of like our values. Startup Grind, we're helping first, right? And I got a tweet from Ignacio, who's the CEO of Across Legal, and he was like, I want to help. Let's do something together. I was like, wow. I mean, you wouldn't expect that much upfrontness, like what I'm saying, like kind of like Silicon Valley. So these guys are law firms specialized in the Barcelona-San Francisco flip and vice versa, right? So you guys interested in going to San Francisco or selling your company in San Francisco, M&A, legal counseling, and other legal support, you should actually meet them. They are over here. They've got a booth. Give them a big fucking applause. Forgot to mention, just so you know it, Icebergs, when they sold to Pinterest, Silicon Valley, from Barcelona, it was them. When 3Scale sold to Red Hat, it was them. So you know, they've got some credibility, right? Next. Oh, sorry. It's like, oh, I forgot the pitch about Zinio. Like, what's going on? Great. This one's very special to me. We've been friends with Sergio since our first Startup Grind event. He came because he was the CTO of Rakuten Spain back then. And he saw that ridiculous stage we had in our first event. And it's like, who's this guy? Like, why is he dressing like that? Why he's interviewing my CEO? But nevertheless, we continued the conversation, you know, in and out of business. And now he's the CTO of Zinio. Zinio is probably, I mean, most people here will know Zinio, right? They disrupted the newsstands and magazine sector with a powerful technology that you can actually read any newsletter and magazine from all over the world. And they're kind of like a Spotify for magazines. I know they don't like this because they're transitioning to an API and technology company, right? They are hiring. So if you're a developer, I mean, front end, back end, mobile, you do PHP, you do React, you do Python, you should actually talk to them. They don't have a stand, but they are sitting here in the second row. Raise your hands if you're from Zinio. They're really cool. Yeah. And that's why we have so many people here tonight. Most of them are from Zinio. Lots of sponsors, lots of people, right? No, cool. They are a truly international company. They got like headquarters in New York. They've got San Francisco as well. They've got development centers in Barcelona and Vietnam, where they surely throw, like, they cover the entire globe. They have also an office in London, if I remember correctly. So give them a big fucking applause as well. Thank you. Wow. I'm exhausted already. I needed to memorize so many things tonight. I'm really bad at this. But was it okay? Yeah. Now, they're actually, I will be sending an email because they offer a discount for you. If you sign up, I'll be sending that email because it's not easy to remember. Not for me. It's obviously easy for you. But basically, if you sign up with a certain email account, they will give you a discount in their product. Great. And Spaces. I'm also super excited about this one because we got the introduction to these guys from Gibraltar. We opened Startup Grind in Gibraltar. Isn't that amazing? I mean, we're really everywhere. When I say we're in Gibraltar, it's like, wow, where else can you go now, right? Who is from Gibraltar? That's one guy from Gibraltar. That's Chris. I mean, there are not so many people in Gibraltar. Like you couldn't expect like 3,000 people to come. That's like, 50% of the population. Spaces. So Spaces is co-working space, private offices for you, opening in Barcelona in late summer. You know how things work in Barcelona. During the summer is not the best time to do business. Nevertheless, they come from Gibraltar. It's a very hard-working place, but here in Barcelona, we're famous for taking some months off. But basically, they're opening this office in Carrer Pallars, 193, if I remember correctly. Where is Ainhoa? Yeah, I remember that. I told her, I will not remember that. In the heart of 22 @ right within all the startups ecosystem. They'll be opening, they probably have got like some special conditions for you. There'll be events, like a really vibrant community over there. We might do some events, we might not. We'll see about that. I mean, I don't know, it's too early, we live in uncertainty. But we're also super thankful for having you guys tonight and welcoming to spaces to Barcelona and Madrid and other cities you're opening, also in Milan and other cities in Europe. So give them a big fucking applause, please. Wow. There's so much information. I actually forgot Scott's introduction. Sorry, I've been talking for too long. So also a big applause for our partners. They've been there for so many events. It's not even funny. Some of them, Estrella Damm, we love you guys. We love you. I mean, I love your beer. It's like, come on, it's ridiculous. You were there in our first event. I think you're the only ones to have been in our first event. And even before the first event, you were already there. We have been collaborating with Estrella Damm, where Carlos and Mark and Paul and I used to be part of a student organization called ESN. They were also our partners there. Our relationship goes back to like 8 years back, right? This is amazing. We truly want to build long-term relationships. If you want to be a partner of Startup Grind Barcelona or sponsor, please, just let us know, because we treat you really well, and they treat us really well with this amazing venue, giving us the beers, and helping us really with an amazing AV technician like Killian when we come over here. So a big applause for our partners. Thank you very much. And, well, I've already asked applause for these guys. Don't applaud them. If you see them, give them a hug in the networking part, okay? If they smell good. Thank you very much. Now it's the time to introduce our speaker for tonight. Now we can have the music. Let's see, we can have the music. Yes. Scott, we're not paying you tonight to be here, sorry. But you're paying us with your time. We know your time is very expensive. He actually said no to company beers before coming here. He might have had some pizza, though. But Scott co-founded Download.com. He created a massive multiplayer game for children to learn collaboration in the past. So he's also a founder. He was VP of International and Strategy at Disney. And now he came on board as the CEO of Softonic, a company that was famous in Spain. And now we want to make it great again, right? And he's the responsible of taking over, like, among other things, the installer. So please welcome Scott Arpajian with the warmest Startup Grind applause. Everybody on their feet and welcome on stage. Yes. Shout. Oh my God. Welcome. That's freaking wild. Can we get, I don't know about you, but can we get a couple beers? We were supposed to do product placement, right? Guys. We love your beers. Can we have? Okay. Thank you for joining us, Scott.
It really feels like the rock star coming up here. That's really impressive. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's nobody just like flashing their teeth from the audience like it used to be in the 80s and the 90s, but maybe in the next anniversary event. Thank you for joining us. I would like to, first of all, thank you for coming, and the second is asking, what did you learn from the presentations from Howard, from the open mic?
Well, before we start, I have a question. So there was a gentleman over there who asked, when Howard was up, asked a question about, he's 25, was thinking about staying in his job or moving on. Where are you? So, yeah. All right, have you quit yet? It's been 20 minutes. You got to go for it. Go for it. Yeah. No, I mean, it's actually, it reminds me of a personal story of mine that I thought I'd share, which is when I was 25, same age, and you were talking about Silicon Valley. For me, I was in Boston, had a pretty safe job, working for Ziff Davis Publishing, big computer magazine publisher, PC Magazine, PC Computing, all these titles. Kind of safe job, but I got this offer to join a really small startup called CNET, and that at the time, no one had really heard of, and it was in San Francisco. And I didn't know anyone in San Francisco. Actually, I actually only knew one person who's actually here. Kelly, where are you? In the back, yeah. And I'd never actually met her. She was editor on my book, but I went to San Francisco, went for it. And single best decision I ever made was to just drop everything, take the leap, go for it into the unknown, and really take that risk. You're 25, you can do it. I highly recommend it. So good luck.
What was actually, I mean, decent advice we try to give everyone is like, hey, you should maybe think about it, but it's not for everybody. Who is it not for?
You know, I think Howard actually addressed this, and it's true that as you move on in life and you take on more responsibilities, it gets harder, right? You know, I've been fortunate to be involved in startups at a really young age. I've been fortunate to also be involved in startups at a more advanced age, and it does get harder. You know, life creeps in with responsibilities. I've got a wonderful wife, 2 kids, a mortgage, you know, and those things really get in the way. So when you're unencumbered by you know, by those sort of investments and those costs and everything, that's the time to really go for it. And it is really true that startups, all right. This is, yeah. Now, the only problem is we're now standing between everyone else and their beer, right? Yeah. So it's, yeah. So we'll speed it up.
It's there.
It
doesn't mean you need to drink it, but
it's good product placement, though.
Yeah, it's good product placement.
No, but I think stuff, life kind of gets in the way and it gets complicated. So when you're young, when you've got the idea, I strongly endorse the idea that you just go for it. Somehow you'll figure out, you know, the things, but being comfortable with letting go of that security and you know of a job and taking that, you know, leap is, I think, really important.
There.
Spill? All right.
That was good. Yeah, I was taken aback by like this amazing beer. So I hope you can pour it yourself. Actually, I wanted to comment because you're also an author. You wrote the book. I didn't mention that in the introduction because there are so many things you have done. It's like I'm never remembering that and my presentation and like the sponsor speeches and my home address. Like I will never remember all of that. So what did you learn from writing a book and what is it about?
Yeah, well, the first book I wrote was actually one of the very first books on HTML, and so this was back in '95. So just as the web had started to emerge, people still called it home pages. That was that was the thing, and there were a lot of books. Actually, O'Reilly, one of your sponsors, I know, had a number of books, but they were all written for a highly accomplished programmer audience. So folks like me understood the books, but for the general population, there was this incredible interest to learn how to get onto the web, how to publish something. And so through Ziff Davis Press, and I mentioned Kelly, who was the editor back there, wrote one of the very first books for beginners, just normal people who wanted to learn the fundamentals of HTML, but without having to think of it as coding, just here's how I do it. And so that was really my kind of entry into moving to San Francisco, but it was quite an experience.
Because Howard told me that it took like almost a year to write the books or something like that, which is super crazy because how the fuck do you work on your startup when you're writing a book? How did you do it back then? How much time did it take you?
Back then I was in a regular job, So the way I did it was I would wake up at about 4 a.m. and then from 4:30 to 7:30 I would work on my book. About 7:30 I would jump in the shower, race to work all day, work until about like 6-7 p.m. Then come back and then I would write for about another 3 hours. And since Kelly, the editor, was in California, that was the time when I would connect up with the editor. But it was like that for about 6 months, 7 months, and just, nonstop.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I wanted to ask you, I've said some very hard truths about Silicon Valley. What can you comment on them? Do you think they're real? It's just a biased opinion I have? Do I have a problem?
No, I think you're pretty spot on. The thing I love, and I think is absolutely right, is the notion that everybody will help. I think that's a dynamic that's very true, and you're right. You can access people who do pretty amazing things. The founders of companies, CEOs. Rock star engineers are very, very accessible there, and people will help you out on just about anything. It is definitely expensive. That is for sure. It gets more and more expensive every year. I think the number one thing though that you mentioned, which is funny, and coming to Europe was a bit of a shock for me, is it is very blunt, and very direct. And you're absolutely right that if you want to get something done there, you don't have a lot of time with a lot of people. You just say what you want, you say it, and then you repeat what you wanted, and you get right to the point. Moving here to Europe was funny for me because I'm a very direct person, and I'm having to learn to adapt my style to be a little bit more roundabout and to not necessarily be so direct all the time. And, más o menos, we're getting there.
We meet today for coffee, next week for lunch, maybe we'll talk about it, follow up by email, we don't answer. After 6 months, I will ping you like, hey, how's it going? Oh, sorry, something has slipped through the cracks. Not you, just saying the general things, how they go here in Barcelona. Now, you mentioned like the price of it, like how you came from New York or Boston, so how did you find it? Like, was it really expensive also for you? For us, it's really freaking expensive.
Well, I date myself, obviously, but when I moved out there, it wasn't quite that bad. So this was pre-bubble. The original internet bubble in sort of 99, 98, 99, 2000 was when things, I think, really started to get out of hand. So I was fortunate enough when I moved there that it was possible to kind of live on next to nothing and get around. Actually took a mattress from Kelly's band van, and that was you do what you need to do. But it wasn't that bad, but it has gotten a lot more expensive, and I think now you're seeing, especially prices going through the roof on apartments, and it has some negative consequences as a lot of people get forced out. San Francisco in particular is 7 miles by 7 miles and not a lot of room to grow or expand. So the high price forces a lot of families out, and it's causing a lot of problems there.
Actually, there must be something good about coming to Barcelona, right? I mean, we're trying to convince Howard to open an office in Barcelona. Yeah. What can you tell him, like good things you found in Barcelona business-wise?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of good things. Solely on the cost issue, it's true that that cost is a lot lower. I think cost of living is a lot lower, which makes it highly attractive for people who want to come here. Cost of labor, if you're starting a business or thinking about growing a business, cost of labor is actually much lower too. And I think those obviously go hand in hand. I've found, just in terms of doing a lot of hiring that we're doing, the talent is exceptional here, and that was a bit of a surprise. I think coming from California, you tend to think, all the engineering talent is here, but when you get here, you realize that Barcelona in particular, and many cities in Europe, like Berlin and London and many others, have high degree of talent. So it's a great place for companies to expand into.
And how about, I'm actually pitching this conference to great CEOs, like CEO of Basecamp, Pinterest, Kissmetrics, whatever. And they're like, yeah, I would like to go there and, have some tapas. And I was like, oh, facepalm, Like, always the same song. How can I tell them that there's actually business going on in Barcelona? We're not, if you guys have seen the report of Startup Genome, it was published a couple of weeks ago, top 20 startup ecosystems. We're not fucking there. No, there's Bangalore in front of Barcelona. There's like every city in the world in front of Barcelona. We're not in the top 20. How can I convince them to come outside of the tapas and paella and flamenco and shit?
Yeah, Barca's not a big enough pull. Is that the?
Soccer's great, but not the right time to talk about it.
I think you're right. It was interesting when so for joining Softonic, one of the most amazing things to me was learning how big Softonic had become. In fact, when the recruiter first contacted me about the role, and she explained how big it was, huge, well over 100 million monthly unique users in 14 languages. Tremendous user population. I actually thought she had her numbers wrong, right? Because I'm like, I kind of remember that site.
That doesn't happen in Europe, right?
Yeah. It was a small little, but it's huge. And I think there are many, many companies, many products that have come out of here that are very, very big. But I think Barcelona does suffer a little bit from a awareness issue. I don't have any hard and fast answers. I think it's a challenge for all of us, to really get out there and promote Barcelona as an amazing place to be. I mean, it is an amazing place to start a business, and it's an amazing place to grow a business. And now that I've been here for several years, it's an amazing place to live.
We've had so many great speakers in Startup Grind, and some of them we haven't yet interviewed, right? We haven't had people from eDreams, or like, we didn't have Softonic, and we don't have people from Grupo Intercom, or like the great companies back then. Some of these people, they really like to be under the radar. We've had some people like Iñaki from Trovit or Nacho Gonzalez from Mailtrack, ex-InfoJobs. They don't like to be in the press. They don't go to events. They just don't show up. Maybe we're not taking enough credit. What's your opinion as an American? Because you guys are really good at that. At taking credit, which is a good thing, right?
Yeah.
We're too humble, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that it's a humble issue, but I do think there's an opportunity to generate more awareness. I think that comes with success. I mean, one thing that's changed about the Barcelona tech scene just in the last few years has been that a lot of companies have started to achieve things like exits, and and you're seeing actually, a fair amount of companies start building, pretty big operations here. I'm thinking about, Let Go and others, and Wallapop, and so you're getting a little bit more traction. And I think we're in the point where that's about to shift. But I think all of us can do a better job of telling our story outside of Barcelona. So, I think the idea of bringing Silicon Valley in is great, but I equally love your idea of trying to really encourage people to go visit Silicon Valley, because everybody here can be an ambassador of what Barcelona has to offer.
Great. I'm going to ask for marriage on stage. Will you be a speaker at our conference in October?
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. That was amazing. Sorry if I got you into trouble. I'm like that. No schedule, nothing prepared. So I wanted to ask you, let's go into download.com, right? It's a CNET, download.com. We grew up downloading like FileZilla or IRC or Messenger from your site, right? How many people has used download.com? Raise your hands. Yeah. Well, right. Quite a lot. Explain us a little bit. How did it work? How did you come up with the idea of thinking like people will download stuff from my site? As an aggregator.
Well, the thing about download.com, which was just so much fun. Well, there's a lot of stories about it, but the way it got started was simply I had actually pre-web. I'd been working with shareware, back when the days of CompuServe and Prodigy. But ultimately, it was really just for nerds, right? So just the techies, geeks would be there downloading software. The general population really couldn't figure out how to get software off the internet. Really, once the internet came on and web browsers had access, the biggest problem was that you were still going to FTP archives to get files. And for a techie, that's pretty straightforward. You understand how to go in, log in, use an FTP client, maybe use your browser. But for the average person, close to impossible, right? And so what I wanted to do was figure out a way to bring all this amazing software and create awareness of it to the world, really. And the second thing that I really wanted to solve was I hated the fact that the primary place that most consumers, average people, went and got software was a retail store. So you would go into, well, in the USA we had like, Microtech and Egghead Software and all these places, and your choices were limited to whatever was in the end caps or on the shelves. And this was only a small slice of what was available. But being a software lover and knowing what was out there, I really just wanted to show, everything that was available to the world, to, create this opportunity for really great software developers to get their products in front of everyone. So for me, it was about the opportunity to build something that both, created awareness for users, but also created opportunity for software developers. And that's really what it was all about. And it was fortunate to be able to do it at CNET, where literally on my second day on the job, they hired me for something else. And my second day on the job, I went to the CEO and the COO, and I said, hey, I got a great idea. And I noticed you have all these amazing domain names, because they had, in addition to download.com, they had news.com, tv.com, radio.com. I had no idea what they were going to do with these domains. I'm like, I'll take that one, and here's the business I would go like to do. And I know this wasn't what you hired me for, but how about it? And they're like, go for it, do it. And, off and running, built a great team, and we built this product. And it really just, we were very fortunate because it really filled the need, and it took off, and it just grew and grew and grew.
Because one of the things that, I have been thinking about it, and you guys were doing SEO before SEO was even a thing. Because what you would type on, not even Google, I'm saying like Alta Vista, Lycos, whatever, you would say like download Messenger, download FTP. So you were typing the domain name, right? Did you actually come with that accidentally, or was it?
Yeah, well, going back that far, it was sort of the brilliance of a guy named Matthew Barzin, who was like employee 4 at CNET. He was the guy who went and got all these domain names, because back then, you're right, this was before any one search engine had really taken hold. And you would actually go into the URL bar, and people would type, actually as they do now, it's just Google takes that over with Chrome. But you would go in and you would type, download, and then of course you'd end up at download.com, or you would type in, news, and you'd end up at news.com. And he had actually gone and acquired all of these incredible domain names, sometimes for nothing more than a T-shirt. It was really an incredible strategy. So we were early on that, and then with SEO. We were definitely an early pioneer on that front. Although I have to give kudos to Tomas at Softonic for taking that to a whole nother level. But I think it really underscored how critical SEO was going to be to the industry, and how important it was for those who were early into it to understand how it really worked.
I wanted to actually compare. I know it's like comparing companies that are actually not very much alike, but there's some similarities between the companies, right? One of them is from here, the other one is from there. So why were you appointed as a CEO for Softonic, and what did you bring from download.com? What lessons learned have you applied to Softonic?
It's funny because, so I left download.com and CNET on my 10-year anniversary there in 2006. And I vowed, I was like, I'm done. I'm done with the business. I want to do something new. This is where I got into starting, my own game and virtual world, and went down that path. So I pretty much said I was going to walk completely away from it. But coming to Barcelona to work for Softonic was about recognizing that here was this business that, as I said earlier, I was surprised to learn just how big it had become. And it struck me as an enormous opportunity and a chance to really fulfill, even more on that vision that I originally had back for download.com, which is to really open up the opportunity to do, so much more. The audience is huge. The really neat thing about what both Softonic and other download sites do is it helps people solve problems. Most people who come are trying to do something very specific. They have a problem. They might have a virus on their computer, or they're trying to get a particular task done, or they have some general need. And what these sites do is move them quickly to the solution. And I think there's huge opportunity. It goes far beyond what we can do just with downloads. I really think of what we provide as a platform for solving all sorts of problems. Actually,
Softonic has undergone some sort of like rebranding, and they did some changes, and I wanted you probably to shed some light of what are you doing just in order to keep alive a business that it's so old now. Some startups, they die after the 3rd year, the 5th year, and Softonic has been around for so many years.
Yeah, well, we'll be 20 years old this July, which is really kind of amazing. And it's about surviving.
Well, it's about surviving the long, cold winter.
Yeah.
Howard.
Well, yeah, I kind of think we're like on the double J curve, right? So it's
double J. Yeah.
It's true. I think everyone here knows the story of Softonic, but so I don't have to go into a ton of detail. But obviously, here's a company that had tremendous growth. A lot of success, at least, locally and throughout the Spanish-speaking world, a fair amount of, well, let's just call it notoriety. And, and it was performing really well. And then sort of the wheels came off the bus, about, now 3 years ago, and everything really kind of collapsed. So we find ourselves now, coming right out of that double dip. And this is really kind of the moment of truth, kind of I think you said the long, dark, cold winter. We've really emerged from that. And that's what keeps me excited, is that, we really see ourselves being on that second rebound. And how big we can get remains to be seen, but that's where the focus is.
How has the game of, actually, going back to my previous question, like SEO has changed? Because you were there before it was a thing, and now you've with download, with Softonic, you've been suffering all these algorithm changes by Google, and like Chrome is taking over, like Internet Explorer is not relevant anymore, and people do other searches like natural language search. Like, how did this affect your businesses?
Yeah, well, you live by SEO, die by SEO, right? That's, I think, the challenge for a lot of companies if they only focus on SEO. And I think one of Softonic's challenges has been that it has been so successful with SEO, but that makes it so dependent on SEO. When I arrived, really no customer acquisition strategy other than SEO. And SEO is great, right? It's cheap. It's highly scalable, and if you know what you're doing, you can do really well. You run into problems, though, because, let's face it, there's only one company that controls searching on the web, and that's Google. And to what you just said, all Google needs to do is make an algorithm change, decide that its algorithm isn't working, and therefore apply a manual penalty. Not because necessarily you've done something wrong, but because they don't like how their algorithm's working, so they adjust it. They can do it. It's their business, it's their company. They can do really whatever they want. So if you are reliant on any one company as your sole source of traffic and therefore sole source of revenue, it's not a good place to be in. Which is why we've been so focused on thinking about how we can expand channels. And I think for any company, no matter what stage you're in, you always have to be thinking about your user acquisition channels and your revenue channels and making sure that you're highly diversified. Sooner or later, if you rely on only one source of either of those two things, you're going to run into huge problems.
That's a very good answer, and that brings me to my next question, which is very related to that. Is actually, startups at the very beginning, they need to focus on their business model, right? So you've got one way to monetize it. If you're diversifying too early, then you're losing focus, right? Or you will be spreading too thin. But when does it come? When is it the right time to start diversifying? Tricky question.
It is a tricky question. I think it really does depend on the market situation and the challenges. But I think the answer is you're right. You need to have focus, right? You have to pick especially as a startup, you have to pick your battles. And I think when I always like to look to my failures as far better learning lessons than successes. And when I think back to Dizzywood, which was the gaming startup, we were so excited about what we were building that we were like, we were ourselves little kids chasing after every shiny idea that we could come across. And we built a great game, but it was way too confusing, and we tried to do too many things, and we tried different user acquisition methods, we tried different revenue generation methods, and it was very, very scattered, and ultimately led to the failure. But I think you should always be experimenting, right? You should always be trying new things, but you want to apply focus on what's really working right now to get you to the next level. Don't try to spread yourself too thin, like peanut butter on a piece of bread, but don't let that prevent you from experimenting and trying. I think always testing, always learning are key to no matter what stage your company's in.
The next question is also very tricky and quite controversial because it's a matter of hiring a CEO. It's not easy. Hiring C-levels is not easy. There are people who say that breaks company culture because these C-level people, they might come with their company culture, it might cause a conflict, whereas it would be better and more motivational for the team to actually, promote somebody within the team, right? Yeah. Was it a problem for you or for your team at Softonic? Did you envision that it would be a problem? They all love you?
We'll ask those that are in attendance. No. No, it's an interesting question. I think it really depends on the situation of the company. Going back to Softonic, and when so I joined in January of 2015, and it came on the heels of Softonic's ERE, where half the company was let go, and it had come honestly as a huge surprise because it had been going so well. And there was this massive change. And I think this is something I talked at length with the board before I joined to find out the answer to just that question. I think what the company needed at the time was it needed somebody from the outside because it was a company that had become very, very successful, but on one path and didn't know any other. And most importantly, didn't know failure. The company had just done really, really well, and everyone there had only known success. So when the company suddenly failed, there was no idea of how to deal with that. And it's just a question of experience. So in that case, Softonic's board chose to look to the outside. I think in other cases, it makes much more sense to promote from within, but it's highly dependent on the particular company.
Actually, probably because I had known Softonic from back, and when I went to meet you in your offices, which actually was very funny, he was in a Barca t-shirt, you know. It had been a great day for Barca, like tonight. So the thing is, I was surprised. I mean, I actually liked the office. Like, wow, this office is really cool. It sounds like, or it seems like one of these offices in Silicon Valley, like open spaces, like people just taking a nap there. The other one was playing. The other one was like dressing funny. And the thing is, like, did you bring that? Or what's the company culture right now at Softonic? Because that's not what I expected, to be honest.
Yeah, you know, I think culture's not something that you can change, and nor should you change. I think culture's something that you can foster and build, but culture actually has to come from within, and it has to be representative of the entire company. So I would never try to lay claim to putting a new culture in place, or bringing in a new culture. But do I have the chance to affect the culture and guide? Yeah, definitely. And I think, what I'm really been trying to do over the last 2 years, and this is funny because sometimes I think when I tell this to employees, I sometimes get blank stares. But I really try to embrace a culture of failure. And I think that everybody looks at me like, are you crazy? Like, fail? But this is my point, is you have to try a ton of different things, no matter what. Even if you're whether you're a startup or a big company, don't be afraid of failure. Try, learn, and keep on building, and be okay with the mistakes that are made. The key is to learn from them, and I think that's the core part of the culture that I'd like to think I've been able to foster. And then it plays out in a lot of ways that you were describing. I think in general, when people know that it's okay to fail because it's part of the learning process, it relaxes the culture. People are more relaxed. I may like to find out who was taking a nap, but I think otherwise, it's actually.
It's probably me.
Yeah, but it's a loose culture, and I think like sports teams that play loose usually win. I think that's why Barca won that time, because they're playing super loose and relaxed. But I think that's the key. So what I've tried to do is bring in a culture, or add to the culture, I should say, of where failure is acceptable, constantly learning, and where we can be relaxed and be loose.
Actually, before asking you more about failure, because you seem like you like to talk about that. So, how many people here have used Softonic? Because I want to see the awareness, like, how many people have used Softonic in the past? There's not a lot of people. I would expect way more. But I actually wanted to ask about failure, right? You Americans, you understand it. You get it right, and you have spread the word, and you are, promoting it. We should talk more openly about failure. We should fail, break things fast, and everything. Can you share something really specific that happened to you want to share with the audience so that we don't repeat that from any of your businesses?
Where
Just
to
one.
start? Oh boy, lots. I mean, one that jumps to mind just because I think it's a clear example of something that failed was the startup that I did, Dizzywood. I mentioned it before. Yeah. There were a ton of reasons for why it didn't work, but I would actually say one thing, which is. Be really. This is on YouTube, isn't it? We recording? This would be awesome. Yeah, great. Okay. Be really careful. No, I love it. No, go for it. Be super careful about your co-founders. Yeah, no. I think pick. They'll never watch it. They'll never watch it. No, when you're in a startup, right? Be really careful about your co-founders. I think one of the failures I made was not making sure that all the co-founders are on the same page. You're getting into a relationship together, and you are charging forward into the great unknown with a ton of risk. And so you got to make sure that you're all really in it. And so that, I think, is one thing I learned, is that didn't necessarily check in with co-founders on whether we were all on the same page. I think that's a good starting point. I think another key failure, as I mentioned earlier, was trying to do too many things at once when you have limited resources. It's great to experiment, but you have to focus. And we tried to do too much.
Okay, let's be more specific about the co-founder thing. We know it's an issue. We have seen it. We have seen it in the community, and we have seen it in famous startups here. and it was in the news a couple of weeks ago. Some company, you know, they had like a really big beef between the co-founders. I wanted to ask, like, how would you, if you were to create a company right now, how would you convince your co-founder, and how would you make sure that you are perfectly aligned?
Yeah, I think, you know, what I'm referring to there about being on the same page is making sure you're all in the same place in terms of being ready to take the risk and also reap equal rewards. And I think, you know, very personally, you know, two mistakes I made were, one, I didn't, when we did the startup, we didn't set it up totally equally, which is something that we absolutely should have. Because not all the founders had an equal stake, yet everybody's contributing. And I think, you know, one thing that I learned is that when you're in an early stage startup, bootstrapped, it doesn't really matter who brings the experience or whether the technical person brings more, you know, capability than the business person or the creative. You're really in it, and at least at that stage, I think you need to make sure that everybody's on equal ground in terms of what they've got in, both on the risk and the reward. And I think the other thing I learned is make sure everybody's ready to be a founder. I think the problem we ran into is one of the founders wanted to be a founder. That sounded really cool. You know, hey, I'll be a co-founder of this, but then wanted to immediately be paid full Silicon Valley salary as soon as the first check, you know, came in from the investors. So that's where you get a misalignment, and everybody's kind of got to be on the same page.
Yeah, what's like red flags for you when you probably hear stories about new companies? I don't know if you invest yourself, but probably you mentor, you coach, and somebody will come to you and pitch you their company, and they'll say, yeah, we're 4 co-founders, 3 of them are librarians, something like this. What's red flags for you? Like, this is not going to end well.
You know, it's kind of amazing because almost any idea can work, but the very first thing I look at when I'm considering like an investment or I'm, you know, advising or you name it, is the team. I think the team really matters because a great team can overcome almost any initial obstacle. There are certain things that teams can't solve as companies get bigger and more complex, but in the early days, it's really the team that matters. So I almost... you know, I don't even really pay a ton of attention to things like the competitive landscape or the you know, who's already established. I look for what does the team look like, how does the team work together.
Another thing I wanted to ask, and that brings me to the next question, it's really good, it's like, when do you need to focus about the competition? Because some entrepreneurs are really too concerned about competition. I'll be like the 4th in the market, or I'm like this, I want to be the first one, whatever. When do you need to start thinking about the competition and not worrying about yourself?
Well, I think you always got to think about the competition because you got to look to the competition for signals, but I don't think you need to worry about the competition. I mean, the truth is almost all successful startups will pivot, and some quite significantly in the course of just the first couple years of operation. You'll make pretty big changes, and your competition will change. So if you spend too much time just focusing or worrying on, you know, one particular competitor, you may find that after 3 years or even as little as 3 months, they're not even really your competitor anymore. So I would say stay focused and true to your mission, stay focused and true to what you're trying to achieve with your product, with your business. Worry less about what everybody else is doing and make sure you get to your, you know, product market fit, make sure that your team's functioning, and that's your first order of business.
Because I think it was Sam Altman from Y Combinator said, like, literally no startup ever has died because of the competition. No. They die for other things, like you don't monetize, you have like beef with your co-founders, whatever, but not because of the competition. That brings me to, you guys are now focusing on the US with Softonic, which is kind of like a new market, because you were big in Europe, especially Europe, Spain, France, Italy, so on and so forth. Why did you go to the States, and what challenges are you facing as a startup from Barcelona going to the US?
Yeah, well, our challenges are a bit different. So we're far from, you know, being an early stage startup. I mean, it's hard to get away with calling yourself a startup when you're 20, you know, years old. But
yeah, well,
but I think to your point, we're very well established in Western Europe. We're very well established in the English-speaking world outside of the U.S., and we're very well established, of course, in markets like Latin America, you know, any Spanish-speaking country around the world. And that was the genius of the Softonic, growth plan, which was to grow in all the markets that everybody else was ignoring. It allowed the company to get enormous scale. Where we're focused is absolutely growing in new markets. Now, interestingly for us, the U.S. is actually already our second biggest country, but we run into huge competition in that market because you have many players there. And very well established as well. I mean, we compete against CBS, one of the big four media networks in there, and they have endless resources. So our challenge is how to figure out the way we enter that market in a way that we can scale.
In July, we interviewed Carlos Catalan, the vice president of AC Hotels. Long story short, when they sold the previous NH hotels, they thought they were not going to continue with the business, so he found himself competing against his previous company, right? Yeah. The company he created. Is Download.com still around, and are you competing with them? And if not, how would you compete with them?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
So you're competing with them?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
How do you feel about that?
I feel great about it. Yeah. No, there's something fun in it, right? I obviously, to me, Download.com is very special because I started it, and it was my vision and my dream, and I built it and worked on it for 10 years. But I left it behind, right? And maybe it's a little bit easier than it's been. CNET was purchased by CBS, giant media conglomerate, so it's no longer the fun little startup. It's like the big evil media empire that we can focus on. But I think competition is healthy and it's exciting and fun, and there's something really exciting about trying to go beat something that you built once before. And it's going to be tough and it's hard, but I think we can do it.
But you know them from the inside out, right? Are you using this to your advantage, actually?
I know quite a bit about them.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. Interesting. Just two more questions before we go into the Q&A, and I want you to be as specific as possible. I know it's hard to construct these kind of answers right now, but if you were, let's say, I inspired a couple of entrepreneurs here in the audience, right, to go to Silicon Valley. Who wants to go to Silicon Valley after, this event? Anyone wants to go? One person, 2, 3, 4, 5.
You scared them off about the cost.
Yeah, I think I scared you. I mean, you can eat tacos for $1, but if you stay there for 3 months, I mean, have you seen Super Size Me? Well, so basically, I wanted to ask you, if you were to go with a new startup next week for a week in Silicon Valley, how would you distribute your time? What would you do?
Okay, specific without constructing, right? So real quick.
Yeah, San Francisco.
Yeah, I think the key is meet as many people as you possibly can. And that's actually really easy to do because what we were talking about is everybody's very highly accessible. And Silicon Valley is great about events like this. There's countless events, networking opportunities, meetups, hackathons, you name it, it's all going on there. And I think, if you go there, don't be shy. Don't kind of hang out, on your own. Get out there, use advantage of the fact that you're there and meet with a lot of companies because it's a very welcoming environment. It's very tech-focused. And if that's, the side you're on, then you're going to have a great time meeting like-minded people who are very open, want to share stuff with you. And I would just go wild. Burn yourself out if you're only going to be there a week. Don't worry about sleep, and just get it done.
That's a great answer. You've done a really massive job now at Softonic, and probably we are amazed about how you turn the company around and everything. And if I'm having a lot of talks with Football Club Barcelona lately, right? Can I suggest them to be the new coach? You as the new coach, would you be able to turn the situation around? Would you be up for the challenge?
I want to play. I want to be on the front line.
No, please.
No, not
like,
gonna
seriously.
happen. No.
Not cool. Actually, very quick thing now is if you were to give the last push for somebody to quit their jobs and actually become an entrepreneur, what would you say to them? What would your quick advice?
Yeah, quick advice is be clear on your dream and your ambition. I think the most important advice I think for an entrepreneur is stay true to what you believe in. Remember why you're doing it. It's really not about the exit. It's not just about the money you'll make, or think about the lives that you'll change. Because I think almost all entrepreneurs have this dream. They have a vision, there's something that they want to achieve, and I think really kind of stay true to that no matter what. Because whether it's a failure, a success, or you build a unicorn on financial terms, at the end, it's all about kind of whether you were true to your vision and whether you felt like you were doing something that was really changing the world. And I think that's the most important thing to remember, no matter what your product or your business, stay true to that.
We'll go into not the last question, but very fast questions. I will say one word, and you will come back with the first word that comes to mind, okay?
Beer. Oh, yeah.
That was my first word, but beer.
Cerveza.
So, go ahead. So, Softonic.
Solutions.
Good. Silicon Valley.
Amazing.
You're being very politically correct. Barcelona.
Well,
after amazing.
I was going to say champions, but I still believe. Next year.
We still believe.
Next year. Yeah.
Next year we can do it. Entrepreneurship.
Tough.
Download.com.
Dead.
Disney.
Ooh, magic. Yeah.
Magic. Ditsywood, your game.
I miss it. Oh, that's 3 words. Yeah. Yeah.
Startup Grind.
What's that?
Startup Grind.
Ah.
Where are we?
Ooh, whoa, yeah.
It happened before. I'm okay.
Community.
Thank you very much. Last question before we go into the Q&A is, everybody has got a useless superpower. Something you do exceptionally well, but it's completely useless. You do it maybe every day, repeatedly, but it's worth nothing. It's worth jack.
It's worth nothing. I don't have to demonstrate it, do I? Yeah.
You can do it. Some people have done it. Some previous speakers have done it. Some are really creative.
Let's see. Among my many useless superpowers,
Single out one. We don't have too much time. I know.
Yeah.
Just one.
I'm gonna have to come back. Yeah.
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 Okay, we'll think about this.
I'll jump out at the end. Yeah.
Well, you can tweet about it, and we'll retweet it. Thank you very much. Big applause for Scott Arpajian.
Thank you.
Q&A, please. Q&A. Somebody wants to take my mic, and yes. You need that one. All right. I can answer for you. Yeah. You're the spokesperson.
Oh, really concise, fast, and be aware of all the people want to ask. Just one question per person, and try to give it as short as possible, as generic as possible. Thank you.
Hi there. I'm the CEO of a SaaS company. We're based in San Francisco, but we're expanding into Barcelona. What advice would you give an American CEO coming to Barcelona as far as how to establish a European-based location for our company here?
Yeah, no, it's a very good question. I think coming, as thinking about establishing and expanding into, what I said earlier, I think is really true. Great talent, low cost of labor, but highly talented, group and great sources of input. I think the biggest challenge that you're going to face, frankly, is the differences of doing business and regulations in EU in general and Spain in particular. So I think getting good legal advice is going to be key. There are some really challenges, and a lot of things operate in a very different way here than they do in the States. Sometimes surprisingly so. So I think getting really solid legal advice, especially from companies and firms that have specialized in moving companies over or expanding in, is going to be key.
Next one. We got one over there.
No.
Yeah, we're here. That guy, I've never seen him before. He doesn't come to every event.
Hi. It works. It's about serial entrepreneurship. I'd like to know how long could it take you to jump to every project? Like every 1 year, every 2 years, from the idea until getting involved into until 7 projects, let's say.
I would say it differs. You know, I've stayed at a company as long as 10 years. Although I think in the case of CNET and Download.com, it was great because we were always doing new stuff. You know, I was involved in the launch of about 7 or 8 totally different businesses and products while I was there. But for me, it's you know, it has gone anywhere from, you know, two months to 10 years, and it really depends. But I think in general, for me, it's been about 3 to 5 years, you know, between major projects.
Got their hand up?
Hello. I'm a student here at Harvard Space University. It's like brand new, and like have 17 years old, and I have a startup in like earphones. Like I'm about like to start it, hopefully like startup next year. So, like for someone my age, what advice would you give me like for like the future? Yeah.
So I apologize, but I'm not sure I understood the last part of the question. So
like. I think like I'm gonna like I want like to make my own startup like in the startup about like next year. So I'll think about like for someone like me, like as young as me, like what advice would you give me like?
Oh, so you don't have the idea yet? You're thinking about it, you know?
No, I have the idea.
You have the idea.
Like I have actually like investors, and it's a real thing.
You have an idea. You have investors.
Yeah.
What are you waiting for?
I don't know, because like everyone says like you have to wait until you turn 18. I was like, I don't know.
You know, I don't think age is really a factor in starting something up. I mean, some incredible businesses have been started by folks as young as 13, 14. I honestly, I mean, I think you answered the question, which is if you've got an idea, you've got a vision for it, you've got investors who want to back you. The best day to start is now, and go for it.
Okay, then remember me then. I'll start.
Last question, please. Hi, I'm a CTO of a company that provides support to startups, and our goal is to lower the rate of failure of startups globally. So do you think there's a way to globalize resources and all the things that Silicon Valley and Barcelona and Berlin and all these tech hubs happen to provide these services to startups all over the world and remove that thing that we have to go that place to make a startup, we have to go that place, we can't start up from wherever we want to go?
You know, I think that's a trend that's happening, and it's one of the interesting things about geography is that, more and more startups don't need to be centrally located. There are some amazing companies that are starting where all of the co-founders, are spread quite literally around the globe. I think there are centers of where it's important to be connected in. I think that's why Silicon Valley is such a great place to be in constant contact with other companies. But there's nothing stopping, a company from thinking about distributing. We ourselves at Softonic, we've had as many as 6 or 7 offices in different areas of the globe. I was just actually talking with a startup about 3 days ago where literally all the employees lived in different cities on different continents. It was pretty amazing. They're completely spread out, and I think it's, spreading, no need to centralize, and diversifying all the resources is a great solution. It so much now supports it that simply wasn't in place 5-10 years ago. Yeah.
I'll ask you the very last question. I want you to be very fast and precise about this. Is one of our core values is help first before helping yourself. How can we from Startup Grind, this amazing community we've got over here, how can we help Scott and Softonic?
That is a good question. Yeah, I think, look, we're a company that is moving from being very self-sufficient to really trying hard to be very open. That's a big part of why I wanted to come here. You mentioned we have a new office. Yes, and we're pretty excited. It's right in the @22. We were way out, on our own. Come visit us. We would love to have you. We've made it a big part of how we're operating is really looking outside of our walls and bringing people in. We just had today a Dutch business school group come in, and it was also a chance not just for us to talk about Softonic, but to hear from them, and they got really involved and did a ton of activities. Come on by. We got 3 patios. It's really nice outside. We'd love to have you. So, consider it an open invitation. We want to get more people in. We want to meet with you, collaborate, and figure out great stuff that we can do together.
So, last 3 things. Logistics. First of all, now we will move upstairs. Well, there's the catering. So, after 3 years of intense content, I know you're thirsty, you're hungry, you're tired of seeing my face. We'll go upstairs. We'll have some networking with Scott, with the rest of the Softonic team, with our sponsors. Go thank them, meet them. They want to help you. I didn't mention this, but all of our sponsors, all of our partners, and our previous speakers companies, they are part of Startup Grind because they want to help you, right? It's not because they want some ego, self-promotion, whatever. Maybe some of them. No, just kidding. But really, if you want to do business with Estrella Damm, you want to do business with Sonar, with Social Car, with Across Legal, with the guys at Zinio, with the guys at Spaces, or with any other of our sponsor partners, call me, tweet at me, send me an email. Some of you have already done it, and we have helped you. We have put you in contact with them. So I'll be happy to also make some personal introductions to Scott and the rest of the Softonic team because they're really here to help you. They want to meet the community. When I met him, the first thing he told me in Softonic office is like, hey, we really want to do more stuff for startups in Barcelona. We want to get involved. Can you help us with that? It's like, yes, let's do it. So here's to longer collaboration and see what happens from here. And the second one is raise your hand if you're a female. Not because I want to meet you. It's... Sorry, that was an easy joke. So we got quite a nice representation, maybe like 25–30% of the audience. Next month, May, is the Female Founders Month. Every year, Startup Grind, all the chapters around the world host only female entrepreneurs. Will be 230 chapters hosting 230 female speakers. But Barcelona, we're cooler than that. We're cooler than all the shit. We are hosting 2 female founders. They are twins. They are the co-founders of Tiendeo, right? So we need to foster female entrepreneurship. If you know great female founders, send them to me, because we ran out of all the female founders we interviewed in 4 years, right? So we need to have more, and we're looking for a broad. But if you know somebody who's really special, I would love to interview her. We have like 40 speakers, and 5 of them, or 6, are female. That's not an acceptable ratio. We need to get more, okay? And last but not least, can I have, please, a standing applause, standing ovation for Scott Arpajian from Softonic? Please. Thank you very much. Great! Happy fucking birthday. See you next year, same place. No, I'm fucking kidding. 11th of May. 11th of May. We're going back to Mobile World Congress.